Hello, my name is Emma Berry and I'm an e-learning developer and instructional designer. And in this short video series, I'm going to be taking you through some storyline hints and tips to hopefully speed up your e-learning creation and iron out any bugs or issues that you might be having with your e-learnings and storyline. So today we're going to have a look at the media library and how using the media library and having an awareness of it can actually help in terms of keeping your file size down. So before we kind of explore the media library, let's just talk about file size and why this can potentially be an issue. So if you're working with an e-learning that has a lot of media in, so for example, you're using videos, you're importing high quality imagery, all good stuff that kind of makes our e-learnings, stand out. This can actually increase your file size quite a lot. We all know that video tends to kind of bump up the file size, but imagery can also be a big culprit for it too. Now, the bigger the file, naturally, the harder your storyline is going to have to work in order to sort of process your e-learning. So as a developer, if you're trying to make edits, change things, it's likely your storyline is going to lag or potentially even just crash where it's run out of memory. From an end user point of view, it's going to take your learner a higher level of bandwidth of internet to be able to display the e-learning if you've got a very large file. And if your learners are, completing this e-learning that's not in an office or home environment, for example, if they work in a retail environment, then it's not likely they're going to be using the best of internet. So there is a very high chance that your e-learning could lag and actually impact the experience that your end user has. You've also got to consider the upload limits of learning experience platforms and LMS. They tend to have an upload limit. So if your file size is bordering on, 750 meg to a gigabyte, then you just have to be mindful of the fact that you may be sort of singling yourself out as to where you can actually upload your e-learning as well. Anything sort of under 500 meg tends to be okay. Most LMS or LXPs can support e-learnings of that size. So now we've kind of understood why file size is something you should be aware of. Let's jump into the media library and have a look at how we can kind of keep track of this really. So to find the media library, go up to your View tab and click on it. And there we go, Media Library. So you'll see that the media library displays all of the media that you've got in your e-learning so far. This includes images, characters, audio and video. And this includes any media that's been imported in from the storyline stock library and anything you've got from an external source as well. So let's just quickly go over some of the features of the media library. We'll stick with the images tab. So if we click on an image, you can see that our categories at the top tell us the image name, its dimensions, the size and how many times it's been used, and when it was modified. Now the tabs that I tend to find the most useful are size and uses. So if we just pop over to the right hand side here, you can see that it's telling me exactly where I have used this image. If I click on the arrows, it'll tell me each individual slide. And if you click on this little button here, so the sort of piece of paper with the magnifying glass, it will actually jump me to those slides, which is really useful if you're working on an e-learning that has a lot of slides and you don't want to kind of keep scrolling through trying to find where this one image sits. You can also order your media this way as well. So if I click on the size category, it'll actually order my images based on the biggest file to the smallest one. And this is really useful for pinpointing if you've got any kind of anomalies. So if you're noticing that your file size has crept up a little bit, if you order your images by size or your media by size, you'll be able to see here if there's any really large files that suddenly have jumped to the top. So a good example is I downloaded a Shutterstock image for one of my e-learnings, and I regularly use, Pexels or Shutterstock to get some royalty-free, high-quality images. And I downloaded the highest quality because I wanted it to look amazing. Now I imported this image straight into Storyline and did this repeatedly, got lots of images in there. The e-learning looked great. And it was only when I saved it that I realised that it was actually a really big file and I had no idea why. So I opened the media library, ordered it by size, and realised that actually a good sort of 10 or 12 of the images I'd used were around 250 megabytes each, and their dimensions were something like 15,000 by 10,000 pixels. Now, because I downloaded the highest quality and put it straight into Storyline without reducing the file size first, it had given me a huge file, and those 10 250 megabyte images together had bumped up my Storyline file quite considerably. So in this instance, what I tend to do now is put any images into a photo editing software and just reduce the file size first down to something like 5,000 by 3,000, which reduces the megabytes as well. So carrying on with what the media library can do, you can also edit your alt text. So if you are the kind of person that likes to do all the accessibility functions at the end of your kind of e-learning creation, you can jump into the media library here and literally just work down all your media and add in alt text where necessary. You can also do some basic functions like replace the picture, edit it and export it. Another useful function is that you can filter this too. So if I wanted to just see the images that I've got in a certain scene, I can click the drop down and it will filter it by scene or slide as well. And again, this is really handy if you are working on an e-learning that branches out into multiple different scenes as well. Okay, so continuing with file size, another way you can just keep an eye and monitor your file size is with the publish function. So if we click on publish, you'll notice under properties we've got quality and it will default to optimized for standard delivery. Now if you click on this one, you then get a pop-up window that allows you to amend the publish quality of your e-learning. So we've got audio quality, JPEG quality, which is currently set to 100%. So carrying on the kind of theme of images, it's going to publish my images at kind of 100% quality. So the quality of which I imported them in. You've then got videos. So you can choose to, if you click the static tab, you can choose to actually manually amend how how high quality you want your videos to be. Now this one, I tend to leave it in the middle, partly because you don't often know what kind of device your learners are going to be accessing your e-learning on. So for example, again, if they are in a retail setting completing this e-learning and the internet's not great, if you've got video quality set to high quality, it's very likely that that video is either not going to play or it's going to play very, very slowly and be at a terrible quality. So I tend to click for adaptive, and what this will do is change the quality of the video, based on the level of internet available, the computer the learner's using, etc. So when you then publish, this is also a good way of kind of compressing any media as well and reducing your file size. So if you are finding that your file's a little bit too big, you can have a play with those settings as well. So to summarise, when creating your e-learnings, in order to kind of keep your file size at a consistent amount, making sure it's not too big and doesn't suddenly shoot up, use the media library to keep track of any anomalies that might crop up, any extra large files, and have a play with your publish settings as well. And if you are importing any media from sites like Shutterstock or Pexels, do check the size of the downloaded image before you import it, and if necessary, pop it into some photo editing software and just reduce the file size before importing it into Storyline.